TIL that tanker trucks are built with baffles in the tank to discourage sloshing during and after braking. At highway speeds, this can reduce braking distance by more than 25 feet. Visualization. That's actually kinda cool. And also something I didn't already know. Thanks, Op. I'm a trucker and I really never understood this until now. It's something I think should be watched by anyone hauling any liquid. Fire engines have a similar thing to stop them from tipping around corners. Horizontal slosh force is my band name. YouTube algorithm showed me this earlier. It's interesting as hell. Why don't they fill the tankers more than halfway? Tangentially related story, my grandpa worked as a city manager in a few places before retiring. One city's water trucks kept breaking drive shafts from water sloshing since the baffles were poorly designed. They looked into replacing them, but one employee involved in the discussion did drag racing as a hobby and had a different idea. They bought drive shafts meant for muscle cars and completely fixed the issue. The drive shaft had two parts that fit inside the other, separated by a rubber liner. Instead of braking the shaft under max load, the rubber would slip and limit the torque, just like when you pass OJ by sliding it on the table. There's always a second push before it stops. Just like the wave breaker in an industrial mop bucket. I just love that someone had to write horizontal slosh force on that chart. I think that's gonna be my new euphemism for having sex. The bartender and I went out back and tested our horizontal slosh force. If you know what I mean. When you stop one, the sloshing keeps going. I parked one, chocked the wheels, and released the park brake. It drove over the wheel chocks forwards, then in reverse. I set the park brake and went to lunch. I see the algorithm blessed you as well today. One of the best TIL I have ever seen. I have worked with tankers before and even had to climb a few bit. Didn't know this. I want more videos like this. The baffles are also perforated. I've just happened to have seen some being repaired at a fuel delivery company I did some work for. Aircraft fuel tanks are most often in the wings, and they also have baffles to a similar effect. Same with rocket engine fuel tanks as well. The more interesting TIL is that, due to the difficulty of cleaning baffles, they are not allowed on food-grade tankers. This leads those trailer taking even longer to stop. And, if the truck brakes hard at lower speeds, the truck could actually slide forward after coming to a complete stop. Won't happen at higher speeds. Truck won't have stopped moving when the sloshing reaches the front, so it's not as dramatic. Hope this isn't a dumb question. A 10-ton truck has the same kinetic energy moving down the highway whether the tank has baffles or otherwise. An equal and opposite force is required to stop the truck. In most cases, that force is road friction, wind resistance, gravity, and brake pad friction. What additional force is acting against the truck with baffles that help it dissipate energy more efficiently, and therefore stop sooner? It's usually 4 separate tanks in one of these tankers. I didn't even think about sloshing in the first place in these things. Except milk trucks. http://blog, truck accidents. com/2010/06/22/milk trucks and trucking safety/ http://blog, truck accidents. com/2010/06/22/milk trucks and trucking safety/. Baffles are not allowed in tankers carrying food-grade loads. Because they are too difficult to clean, baffles could lead to contamination of foods such as milk and are therefore illegal on trucks carrying such loads, leaving drivers of milk trucks and other liquid food-grade loads at constant risk of dangerous surges. I used to load these in ISO containers. It was about 50/50 if they had baffles or not. It makes sense why they're needed. Not sure why they're not standard on all tanker trucks, excluding food grade. Why aren't smaller vessels that are filled completely just used to eliminate sloshing entirely? But how do they empty it with the baffles? One of the first genuinely interesting TILs in a while. Thanks. It never even occurred to me that those tanks weren't completely hollow. Awesome. Work at a fertilizer plant. I will say 1 compartment trailers with baffles are not as good, and 2 to 4 compartment trailers in terms of fluid moving around during braking and acceleration. As a tanker driver that hauls jet fuel, I can say that I thoroughly enjoy baffles. Thumbs up. Light skin tone. Oh. The slosh, https://youtube b/88nnmtmey0g. I love the slosh. Watch ma bag tam. For anyone curious, this is exactly how firearm suppressor/silencers work too. They just slow and cool the hot gases from the burning propellant. A full unbaffled tank while driving in the rain totally sucks. If you have to stop at a red light on a downhill slope in the rain, the tank slosh can slide the truck forward when you feel like you're about to stop. Added note from a tanker driver: standard cylindrical tankers come in food grade and non-food grade configurations. Food grade trailers are mandated by the FDA and to not have baffles because it can make cleaning difficult and lead to bacterial contamination. Most fuel tankers have closed-off baffles. They're designed with 6 compartments, leased in my company, to be able to fill different octanes and fuels without mixing. I see the YouTube algorithm also randomly fed you this video the other day. I wonder if they could use airbags as sort of a baffle, to displace the free air inside the tank. This would be a solution that could adapt to the fluid level in the tank, and prevent almost all sloshing, as it basically creates a near airless container. Can we all appreciate that they use the word slosh? I wonder how much this decreases capacity versus a container without baffles. The way those things work is baffling. Except milk trucks too hard to clean the baffles. I always assumed they were always like 99% full to accommodate for this and never really thought any more about it. Interesting. However, milk trucks don't have baffles and are only transported full or empty. Yes, but cannot have baffles in food grade tankers can have compartments but not baffles. So YouTube recommended this to up as well. Tanker ships have the same thing. Internally they aren't just one giant tank, but have many individual cells. There's a bunch of reasons for this, but the biggest reason is that preventing the sloshing maintains a consistent center of balance. If it was one giant tank, it could easily capsize in rough water. Milk and water trucks don't have baffles, which makes them much more dangerous. Horizontal slosh force. Name of your sex tape. Tankers that carry food-grade liquids are not baffled. Too difficult to keep sanitary. So this popped up in your YouTube feed at 3 a.m. too. Interesting that food-grade tankers are usually built without baffles to make cleaning easier. Give milk trucks extra room. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not the case in dairy tankers. Cause you'd have cottage cheese by the time you got there. Engineers, solving problems we didn't realize existed. Baffled tanks are only in some tankers. There are no baffles in food-grade tankers, as an example, because they cannot be cleaned appropriately between loads due to the baffles. They are also not in tankers for things like cold crude oil, because the thought is the viscosity of the fluid is a baffle in itself. So this is true, just not all of the time. I was a mechanic for a trucking company that hauled milk. No baffles. When the yard iced over, you could brake hard and then a few seconds later the wave would hit and scoot the truck a few feet. We lost a few trucks every winter because of this. It never occurred to me that a tanker truck would ever carry anything other than a completely full or completely empty tank. It baffles me. Hee. Even with baffles, if you're not fully loaded, it can still make a rough ride. What I want to know is what happened in those comments that they needed to turn them off. Just AQ, why don't they fill it so there is no room for the water to slosh? Till people didn't already know about this. I'm an engineer of tank trailers. The baffles are also for circumferential reinforcement, especially at the ends of frames for the rear chassis and the front kingpin, where stress is highest. Most petroleum trailers actually have 4 or 5 compartments for hauling different commodities, so the inside will be a mix of dished baffles and bulkheads. Some compartments are separated by 2 opposing bulkheads instead on one, leaving a void space of open atmosphere.